Subscribe to Farm Logic before we begin, because this is one of those quiet old-world land practices that almost disappeared, yet it can change how you build soil forever. If you've ever wondered how forests create rich black soil without compost piles, turning heaps, or modern inputs, today's guide reveals the method farmers, woodland keepers, and survivalists have quietly borrowed from nature for centuries. How forests build soil without compost bins or turning piles. Walk into any healthy forest and look down. There is no bare dirt. The ground is layered with leaves, needles, bark fragments, twigs, fungal threads, and half-decomposed plant matter. This layered blanket is not compost in the human sense. It is a slow, continuous soil factory driven by fungi, bacteria, insects, moisture, and time. Instead of piling materials together and forcing decomposition, the forest spreads organic matter thinly across the soil surface and lets life do the work in place. This matters because decomposition behaves differently when materials stay where they fall. Oxygen flows freely. Moisture stays consistent. Fungi dominate instead of heat-loving bacteria. The result is stable, carbon-rich soil rather than fast-burned organic matter. This is the core of the forest floor mulch trick. Why fungi, not heat, are the real engine of long-term soil creation. Traditional compost relies on heat to break materials down quickly. Forest soil relies on fungi to break materials down slowly. Fungi excel at digesting lignin, cellulose and woody fibres that bacteria struggle with. That is why forest soil smells earthy, not sour, and stays rich for decades instead of washing away after one season. So, when you copy this system, you're not actually trying to rot materials quickly. Instead, you're feeding these fungal networks that, well, stitch the soil together, help retain water, and even shuttle nutrients directly into the roots of your plants. This sort of fungal dominance, you see, is the reason why plants grown in forests often thrive with, minimal fertility inputs. Now, let's look at how folks historically copied forest floors on their farms and homesteads. Medieval wood pastures, early orchard systems, and indigenous food forests. They all relied on forest floor mulching, really. People would rake leaves from woodlands and spread them under their crops. Straw, reeds, and bark were layered thickly around fruit trees. Nothing was turned. Nothing was piled. The soil, well, it just built itself, year after year. In Japan, similar practices evolved and later influenced what we now call natural farming. Over in Europe, estate records describe leaf litter being considered more valuable than manure, especially for orchards. These farmers, they understood something that perhaps modern systems have forgotten. Slow soil building, in the end, creates real resilience. Now, let's talk about how to recreate the forest floor mulch system in your own soil. First off, you want to stop leaving soil bare. Bare soil is, wounded soil. So go ahead and spread organic material directly on the surface wherever you want fertility to increase. Things like leaves, chopped weeds, straw, wood chips, pine needles and dried grasses all work quite well when you layer them thinly but keep it consistent. Begin with a base layer that touches the soil itself, not cardboard or plastic, right? This contact is important because it allows fungi and soil organisms to move upward into the mulch. Be sure to add more material whenever you notice it getting thin. Remember, you are feeding a living surface here, not just building a pile. For a home garden bed, simply apply a hand-thick layer of mixed organic matter and let it sit. There's no need to dig it in. If conditions are dry, water lightly. Within a few weeks, you'll start to see fungal threads forming and the soil darkening beneath, which is a good sign things are working. Now, when it comes to survivalists and folks who prefer low-input growing, this approach really helps them grow food faster. See, this method is especially useful in places where making compost just isn't practical. In a survival situation, dragging materials all the way to a compost heap can waste precious energy. Forest floor mulching, on the other hand, lets you build fertility right where your crops actually grow. For example, let's say you've got a survival garden with squash or maize. You can mulch around your young plants with whatever leaves and grasses you can gather as soon as the seedlings are up and going. As that mulch breaks down, the roots grow straight into the fresh soil that's forming. No need for turning anything, and you don't have to wait months for compost to be ready. In perennial systems, fruit trees really do respond in a dramatic way. All you need to do is spread leaf litter and wood chips in a nice wide ring underneath the canopy, but make sure you keep it away from the trunk itself. Within just one season, the soil turns spongy and holds on to moisture much better, so you don't have to water as often. So, why does this system outperform compost in dry or fragile environments? Well, you see, compost piles tend to lose nutrients to heat, air and leaching. It's just the way they work. But forest floor mulch, on the other hand, loses almost nothing. The nutrients move downward gradually, held in place by fungal networks and all that rich organic matter. This makes the method just ideal for dry lands, slopes and poor soils, especially where erosion is a real risk. Farmers using this approach often notice fewer weeds because, well, mulch blocks light while improving soil structure. Over time, weeds that do appear pull easily because soil aggregates are loose and biologically active. The greatest advantage of this system is what happens after several seasons. Soil layers begin to resemble forest humus, earthworms increase, water infiltration improves, crops experience fewer nutrient swings. This is soil that, feeds itself. A simple yearly rhythm works best. Add organic matter during harvest cleanup. Add more after pruning. Let winter moisture carry nutrients downward. By spring, beds are already charged with life. Subscribe to Farm Logic if you value forgotten land wisdom like this, because these quiet techniques built civilizations long before fertilizers existed. Share this guide with anyone trying to grow food where composting feels like a burden. This forest floor mulch trick is not fast, flashy, or trendy, but it works. And well, it keeps working for generations.